Hi everyone, today I'm going to be doing my video lecture on the Huli people of Papua New Guinea. So there's a little picture of what they look like in the back. That's their traditional attire, I would say. The purpose of this video lecture is to teach you all about Indigenous people from a region of the world outside of North America. The Indigenous people that I chose were the Huli people of Papua New Guinea, also known as the Huli Wigmen. In my video presentation, we will explore the unique culture of the Huli people and their views on masculinity, wealth, marriage, leadership, and traditions. I will also be comparing and contrasting the Huli people's way of living with the Indigenous people here in Canada's way of living. Here's a little outline of what we'll be going over in the presentation today. So we'll go over the history and background of the Huli people, their appearance, childhood, wigs, wealth, leaders, marriage, ceremonies and traditions, connections with the course material, and then also resources. Here's a little bit of history. So the Huli people have lived in the Tari region of the Southern Highlands in Papua New Guinea for approximately 1,000 years. They are one of the largest groups in Papua New Guinea with over 90,000 people. They estimate it's between about 90,000 and 400,000, but with over 90,000. So they were first exposed in the 1930s when around 50 were killed by European adventurers looking for gold. One of the few places in the country where traditional way of life can still be seen in everyday living. So over the 1,000 years that they've been living here, their culture has not changed much. So their ways of living are very similar to when they first became a tribe. And then they were very extensive travelers, predominantly for trade in both the highlands and lowlands of their surrounding homeland, particularly in the south. So this is kind of the area of Papua New Guinea that they are located in. A little bit of background. All the members consider themselves one person descended from a male ancestor named Huli. They are famed for their ornate wigs of its male residents and the bold face paints in tribal gatherings. They live a life of vengeance and warmongering rather than peace. It's a place of ritual, deep culture, and color where masculinity is nurtured and revered. Culture has a lengthy oral history that tells of individuals and clans in an environment where tribal conflict remains an everyday part of life. So their daily life, the way they solve conflict is through war with other members of their tribe. They have strong traditions with little affected by modern change, and they speak primarily Huli and talk Pisin, and many also speak some of the surrounding languages, and then a few members of the tribe also speak English. A little more background. The Huli support themselves through hunting and agriculture. They consist of proud and fearless warriors who prefer traditional methods of dispute settlement. And then tribal wars originate from fighting over land, pigs, and women. So this is the appearance of the men in their culture. The ochre, which is red clay, and ambua, yellow clay, are considered sacred in Huli culture, setting their warriors apart from those of neighboring tribal groups. The upper part of their face is painted yellow, and then the lower part is painted red. The Huli men's traditional decoration consists of a cassowary quill put through the nose, which is right here. It's a little hard to see. Kina shells around the neck, which you'll see better in the picture I have in the next slide. A hornbill beak on the back, a knife made of cassowary bones stuck in the belt, a bend of snakeskin across the forehead, which you can kind of see right there. Bilium over the shoulders, arse grass, which is made of leaves stuck into a belt to cover the bottom, and then a belt of dangling pigtails to attract the women. Okay, here, I'll just go to here first. This is their necklace, this is the belt, that's their knife right there, and as you can see on all of them. I can't see any pigtails hanging from this photo, but I could be wrong. And then here's the appearance of the women. So the Huli women wear a long skirt made of grass and a smock to cover her breasts. So their breasts are cut out of this photo, but they usually have the kina shells on their breasts right there. Women wear fewer ornaments than men, usually flowers in their hair, neck beads, and a kina shell breast. So like I said, it's cut out, but here are the beads. And then here's a little bit about their childhood. They go more into depth about the male childhood just because it is a more masculine tribe. They focus more on the male aspect of it. So the boys live with their mothers until they are 7 or 8 years old, and then they go live with their fathers to learn how to become a man. So when they live with their fathers, they learn skills like building mud walls and hunting with a bow and arrow. At age 14 or 15, they enter bachelor school. It's also known as Whig school for about 18 months to 3 years to learn about the biological and ritual processes of becoming a man. It is believed that a combination of magic and a special diet help the young male to transition into a man and help his hair grow extra quickly. So here's a little bit about Whig school. During this time, they have forbidden contact from any woman, including their mothers, and then sexual contact in particular would contaminate their stores of male essence and also um, affect the magic that is said to happen here in Whig school. They receive instruction on the biological and ritual processes of masculinity. They have a strict diet, which is where they can't eat a pig's heart, or spicy food. They have to sleep in the position of being perched on one elbow while their neck is resting on a wooden log. This is required because it helps to ensure that their hair grows healthy. Then their hair also has to be wet 3 times a day with what they call holy water, and then sprinkled with fern leaves while chanting spells. So the wigs are a big part of their cultural history. They're known for having big wigs, big fancy wigs. So here's a little bit of history on the wigs and their culture. So as their hair grows, it's gradually shaped into a circular band of bamboo into a shape resembling a torter's hat, which is also a bullfighter. After they graduate from bachelor school, it is clipped off close to the scalp and is woven into a traditional Huli wig by the wig master. The wig masters will add ornaments such as colored clay and bird of paradise or parrot feathers. All wigs must be created before he is married, so they can be created for everyday use, ceremonial use, personal use, or even for sale. Wigs can be sold to men who can't grow the wigs on their own. Only the hair of unmarried boys and young men can be used for making the wigs. So if they're married, they stop making wigs for themselves. So they have to make all of their wigs before they're married. The wigs represent symbols of their maturity. After graduation, the boys wear the elaborate red hair wig of young bachelors, demonstrating that they have passed into adulthood. So wealth. They count their wealth in this culture with how many pigs they own. They are used to pay a bride's dowry, death fees, or other ritual payments. The man's status in the local community depends on the size of his wealth in pigs. So the more pigs he has, the better man he is considered. A Huli man's economic and social status is always changing. It increases when he gets another wife because she is able to father more children for him and to raise more pigs. Okay, and leaders. So the tribe has no chiefs. Instead, they have leaders who are determined by their warmongering and dispute-solving attribute, as well as their wealth of pigs and kina shells. Warfare never ends within the Huli culture, as vengeance is preferred to any peaceful settlement. So they will always prefer war over a peaceful way of handling conflict. It is said that when a person returns one injury with a greater one, his victim normally seeks counter-vengeance rather than accept this as justice. So war never stops. No matter how great the injury is, they will never stop war. Marriage. So there are many methods on how a Huli marriage becomes official. It could be betrothal, parental arrangement, widow inheritance, or even as a gift. The union of marriage is not official until the groom's kinsmen escort the bride to her new residence, which is usually living with her mother-in-law. So the husband's mom is where the wife usually lives. The couple does not live in the same house, but they're required to stay awake for 4 days and nights and to remain outdoors whenever a bird sings. On the 5th day, the couple prepares a garden with very ritualistic methods. The bride uses her new digging stick, which is a gift from her husband at their wedding, and it is used to ensure the faithfulness of their marriage. The couple has to harvest their garden twice, which usually takes about 8 months, and then the wedding is consummated. So they cannot have sexual intercourse until they are done harvesting their garden. And then marital relations. So the men and women live in separate houses as contacts with women are believed to be harmful. The man remains satisfied with one wife until he has acquired enough wealth in the form of pigs to marry more wives. Usually, the man does not marry more than 5 or 6 wives. Depending on the economic conditions and the status of the bride, she receives between 15 to 22 pigs when she gets married. So that is why the husband wants more wives, because it means that he is getting more pigs along with his marriages and therefore considered more wealthy. So the relationship between man and woman. The women who live with children and piglets are strictly prohibited from entering the man's house, and marital relations take place in their garden. So the garden that they harvested at their wedding. Men avoid the women so their fertility and physical strength can be protected. They also fear the menstrual cycle because they believe that menstrual blood weakens a man's skin, causing it to be flabby and dull. It inhibits the growth of a large and shiny wig and accelerates the aging process. So, when a woman is on her period, she is secluded from society and required to stay in a small hut until it is over. The day after it ends, women are only allowed to talk to their husbands from a distance without looking them in the eye. 12th through 15th day are the only acceptable days for intercourse. Some men do not even buy food from the market because they fear that a woman has touched their food. So, as you can see, this culture fears women. Ceremonies and traditions. So, they have three major ceremonies and traditions. Besides the wig school, I would say the young girl initiation. So, it doesn't go much into detail on the young woman. This is the only thing that young girls really get to go through. So when a young girl is initiated into womanhood, which would be when she gets her period, the woman performs a dance. This dance is not accompanied by any music, drums, or singing. It's just her dancing. And then there's also the Wigman dance. So the Huli Wigman, this is what they're known for. The ceremonial dance of the male Wigman is accompanied by pipes and drums. And then the Mumu feast is probably one of the more interesting parts in their culture, is where they dig a hole in the ground, they line it with banana leaves, and then put it on hot stones, heat it up in a wood fire in the pit. The pit is then filled with vegetables, chickens, mixed with layers of hot stones. Then the water is poured over the assembly to create steam. The whole pit is then covered with banana leaves and dirt to keep steam in the pit. After a couple hours, the whole pit is excavated and food is served. So it's a very big food tradition in their culture. And here are a few pictures from it. So this is the Mumu feast. This is a picture of the young girl initiation, and then this is the traditional Wigman dance. Okay, and then connections with course material. So the Indigenous people of Canada and the Huli tribe are two very different cultures, but I did manage to find some similarities and differences between the two. So one similarity I found was that they were both discovered by European settlers. So the Indigenous people of Canada were all found by like Christopher Columbus and his little crew, and then the Huli people were discovered by some brothers named Mick and Dan Leahy, and they were also both the Indigenous people of Canada and the Huli people were also killed off by the European explorers who found them. The Indigenous people of Canada obviously were killed off a lot more than were killed, but there was still a significant amount in the Huli tribe killed. There was 50 people killed. So I think death is death, but obviously it made more of an impact here in Canada. Another similarity I found was creation and Huli. So the Indigenous people here in Canada believe that the Creator created all the world, Turtle Island in North America, and then the Huli people believe that they're descended from a male ancestor named Huli, just like the Indigenous people think they're descended from creation. So there's a little similarity there, I think. They've also both been a tribe for over thousands of years, so they have a deep oral history. Also, they both have their traditional ceremonies. So the Indigenous people here in Canada have the sweat lodges, they have the powwows, they have naming ceremonies, they have the significance of tobacco and giving tobacco. And then the Huli people have their wig school, they have the Mumu feast, they have the Wigman dance. So they both have traditional ceremonies specific to their culture. And then some differences I found between the two were the fact that Indigenous people of Canada like to handle their conflict through peaceful settlement, and not their ultimate goal is to not go to war, but that is the total opposite for the Huli people. They are very not violent, I would say, but they definitely like to take a more violent approach to conflict resolution. Another difference I found was that the Huli people are very materialistic. They care about what they own. They don't necessarily care to help other people. They kind of just care about their own wealth and what they have. where the indigenous people here are the opposite. They share wealth with those in their tribe. They never take things without giving something back. So they're very okay with sharing their wealth, where that's where I think they're total opposites. And then another difference, would I say, their gender equality. In the Huli tribe, I feel like women are treated more like um, they're more of a household wife, where the women here in Canada are definitely more valued, I would say. And then here are my final thoughts. So, as a woman, I think it would be hard to grow up in a society where my only purpose was to raise children and pigs. I don't think that I would necessarily thrive in that situation, but I understand that is normal to them. And from an outside perspective looking in, I don't think I would want to live in a society with such male domination. But again, I didn't grow up with that. So maybe if I did grow up there, I'd be more used to it. But um, another thing I'm not particularly fond of is the amount of war that goes on in their tribe. I think they should learn from the Indigenous people here in Canada on how to handle things peacefully. I think that's a better approach. But again, my opinion. I think it's important to recognize that every culture is different. And although I may not agree with it, I think that's okay because it's not my culture. It's not my place to say. I didn't grow up with it. So that's why it doesn't seem normal to me. And it's probably completely normal to them. So um, the Huli tribes has so many beautiful aspects. Their appearance is so unique and it's recognized anywhere in the world, which I think is amazing. Um, I now, from doing this assignment and doing research on them, I now understand how different each indigenous culture is around the world and how deep their histories can go. I think indigenous is such a broad term for how many different cultures there are around the world, how different they all are. Like the Huli tribe and the indigenous people here in Canada are both considered indigenous, but they are so different. And I think it's important to say that indigenous people are truly one of a kind. No matter where you go, you're gonna hear so many stories about their history, which I think is so amazing. And then lastly, here is a list of my resources. So most of the resources I have were actually blogs. So people going there and doing their research, because like I said before in my presentation, the Huli people haven't changed their traditions much since the beginning, so thousands of years ago, and technology wasn't a thing thousands of years ago. So they're not going out and publishing online lots about their culture, and they rely a lot on people coming and experiencing their culture firsthand and writing about it and what they experience, which I think is super cool. I like hearing outside perspectives, but I think it would also be cool to go there on my own and do research on my own. I think that would be even more cool, especially since I know a little bit of the background. I'd like to know a lot more, but these blogs were very good and well detailed, but I would still like to learn more about the culture. But anyways, that's the end of my presentation. I hope you guys learned something and thanks so much for watching.